Hello and welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras, and coming up in today's newscast, potential scandal ahead of Israel's elections following a leaked audio recording. Israeli officials claiming to have nearly completely crippled Iranian forces in Syria. And a standout athlete moves one step closer to becoming the first Orthodox Jew in the NBA. Just 8 days left to Knesset elections, and a leaked audio tape has now potentially thrown the outcome into disarray. The leader of religious Zionism party heard calling former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu a serial liar. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz with the report.
In a leaked audio recording, religious Zionism leader Bezalel Smotrich is heard saying that Likud leader Benjamin Netanyahu wanted to form a coalition with the Israeli Arab party Ram after the last election, despite repeatedly saying otherwise publicly. Released by the Khan public broadcaster, Smotrich calls Netanyahu the liar of all liars. The recording was reportedly made during the past year. Smotrich is heard saying he didn't want to go with Ram. Oh boy, he wanted to. I was the only one to stand my ground, Smotrich said in the recording. It was important for me to make clear that in the right, having Ram join a government is taboo, Smotrich said. Netanyahu insists that during negotiations over the formation of the previous government, he had never agreed to Ram joining the coalition, and repeated this as recently as Sunday at an elections conference hosted by Channel 14 News. Netanyahu has called Ram terror supporters and criticized Prime Minister Yair Lapid and Defense Minister Benny Gantz for bringing them into their coalition. After the story broke, Smotrich said that he and former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are working in complete coordination, and together they will topple the bad government of Lapid Bennett and the Muslim Brotherhood. Smotrich said that the tape was leaked by someone trying to drive a wedge within the national camp out of stress and panic, and that the right will return to power, as all the polls are showing. We will continue to work in full cooperation until victory and the formation of a national Zionist Jewish government, Smotrich said.
In other news, just days ahead of the Knesset elections, former Prime Minister and opposition leader Benjamin Netanyahu publishing his new English autobiography titled Bibi, My Story. And so for a preview of some of the juicier revelations in the book, JNS editor Alex Tryman sat down for an exclusive interview with Netanyahu himself.
We read in the news this morning that the UN Permanent Commission of Inquiry against Israel, led by Navi Pillay, has just once again cited Israel for violating international law. You spent a lot of time at the United Nations as Israel's UN ambassador. Is the UN an anti-Semitic body, and have you ever considered that Israel should potentially leave the United Nations?
Yeah, I considered it a few times, and I actually stopped the payments to the UN after one particularly egregious anti-Israel move that they made. But, the best news I have is the best advice I got was from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who told me shortly after I came there, and I described it in my book, came to serve at the UN, so I met him, and he said, "You're going into the house of lies." That's how he called it, the house of lies. And remember that even in the darkest hall, if you light one candle of truth, its light will be seen far and wide. And he told me that's your job, is to light the candle of truth, before the peoples of the world. Well, I tried to do that. And you can use the podium in the UN to do exactly that. In other words, they lie about us, they slander us, they vilify us, but we can also point out the truth to the representatives of the nations and public opinion around the world. It's a good podium. It's a good bully pulpit, actually.
You talk in your book.
I bullied quite a lot there.
You talk in your book about how the Clinton administration actually put together efforts to try to keep you from becoming the prime minister of Israel.
Yeah.
Bougie Herzog, who used to lead the Labor Party, had the V15 organization, which was supported by many Obama consultants to try to prevent you from retaining.
No, State Department funds. It's
Right.
even worse.
Now, Herzog was the president of Israel, and he's about to travel to the United States just days before a general election. Are you concerned about potential U.S. election interference, and what would be your advice to Herzog on this trip?
No, I don't have to give him advice. He's sufficiently worldly and experienced not to need it. But I would say that have American administrations tried to intervene, especially against me? The answer is yes. Clinton openly admitted it. And again, under President Obama, the State Department gave hundreds of thousands of dollars to NGOs working to topple my government. There's no question in an election campaign. So there's no question about that. Was that effective? I don't think so. But I would advise him not to do it. I don't do it contrary to common law. I don't intervene in American elections. They shouldn't intervene in ours. We're free societies, real democracies. And you don't do that in democracy.
And now with more on Netanyahu's JNS interview, as well as the last week ahead of elections, journalist and JNS Jerusalem Bureau Chief, Alex Tryman. Alex, it's great to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
So, first of all, I really enjoyed, going through the interview that you had with Netanyahu. And you spoke on many topics during your interview with him, including his history of politics, his future ambitions, and of course, his new memoir. What struck you most about the discussion, though?
One of the things I found most interesting was that he paralleled the rise of Israel to the rise of Iran. He said that Iran's rise as a power is actually what enabled Israel to step into its role as a regional superpower, and in many ways led directly to the signing of the Abraham Accords normalization agreements with 4 Muslim-majority nations.
Interesting. So, speaking of the Abraham Accords, in your interview, Netanyahu says that he intends to achieve peace with Saudi Arabia and the rest of the Arab world, but many say that the Saudis joining in the Abraham Accords is a matter of time, and kind of always has been. So do you think that it was Netanyahu's efforts per se that are bringing Saudi Arabia closer to an accord, or was Bibi maybe just in the right time at the right place, so to speak, being that he was in power for 15 years anyway?
Well, if you look at the countries that signed the Abraham Accords agreements, the United Arab Emirates and particularly Bahrain, there's no way that those countries would have signed normalization agreements without the implicit approval of Saudi Arabia. And we see that Saudi Arabia also has granted not just commercial flights, but Israeli commercial flights to fly over Saudi airspace in order to reach those countries. So I think that when Netanyahu said that he intends to make peace with Syria, that he understood that it would be a matter of time, but the Abraham Accords to begin with happened by and large due to Netanyahu's strong relations with Saudi Arabia.
So I mean, is it political bluster, or is he right to kind of take a lot of that credit and say, if I come back into control, it'll happen?
Well, I think he deserves to take credit. But I also think that if Netanyahu does not form the next government, that Israel still remains on a path to forge peace with Saudi Arabia at some point in the near future.
All right, so I want to shift to politics now. In response to leaked recordings this week, Netanyahu forgave Bezalel Smotrich of the religious Zionism party, saying that we must not divide the right, and that one government with Abbas, with Mansour Abbas, was enough. How much of this leak do you think was political theater, though? And from which side do you think that the leak actually originated? Was it maybe originating on the right to give Netanyahu a chance to forgive and to look, and to look forgiving, or did the left maybe release it to divide the right?
I don't think that Netanyahu was behind that leak, but the media is always looking to get maximum headlines, maximum eyeballs on their stories. So I'm not certain it particularly matters whether that came from the left, it came from the right. It's part of the normal political theater that I think happens before elections, which we seem to have a lot of here in Israel. I don't really think that quote has much impact on people's voting patterns here in Israel. I don't think it's really going to have much of an impact at all on the end result. So it's just another headline that I think is going to be irrelevant in a couple of days.
To watch full episodes of ILTV's Israel Daily and tons of other content from Israel, visit our website at iltv.tv or download the ILTV Plus app.